Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kyle, and for today's video, I thought I would see how many downvotes, how many unsubscribes I could get, how many haters I could get to come out of the woodwork and do a list video. That's right, I'm going to list my favorite cars, the ranking that I would give to cars. This is not a good idea. I'm sure everyone is going to give me all of the hate and all of the poison in the world. So let's begin with a couple of quick pointers. First of all, this is just my opinion. It's not yours. It's just mine. A couple of people, and by a couple I literally mean two, a couple of people said, hey, why don't you put together a list of cars in the Eliminator in the order that you like them? So I thought, okay, I can do that. But it's just my opinion. Your opinion can be completely different than mine. That's fine. My mind can be changed. If you disagree with me wholeheartedly and you want to make a comment or tell me how I'm wrong and let me know how I'm wrong, tell me. Maybe you can convince me and I'll switch some things around. I don't know. One of the biggest factors here, though, is in thinking about doing this, I came to the realization that multiple lists are needed. Because the best cars in the final are not the best cars for head-to-head races. It's not the same list. That's not the same cars that I would want after the second shrink. The best final on-road cars are not as good as the best final off-road cars. So I will do multiple lists because I feel like it. Lastly, I think that most of the time I do a pretty good job about, remaining pretty, I keep a good perspective. I think that I'm okay at the Eliminator. I think I have won my fair share of games. I think I know a little bit here and there, but I also know that a lot of people know a lot more than me. However, if we look at my statistics and my current 37% win rate, you know what? I'm actually pretty darn good at this game, at least in this mode. I'm not talking about racing. I'm not talking about drifting. I'm certainly not talking about drifting. I'm not good at drifting at all, ever, no way. But in the Eliminator, in Forza Horizon 5, I have a pretty good track record, so I think I might be kind of qualified to do this. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to list out my ranking of the best cars to win in head-to-head races. That is from before the very first shrink to just before the final shrink. What are the best cars to race in? These are not the cars that I think, this is not the ranking for the best cars in the final. This is not the ranking for the best cars, I think I'll have another list for the best cars to have after the second shrink is already completed, because the complexity of the game, or not really the complexity, the vibe of the game, the feel of the game, the things you need to do after the second shrink can change dramatically, and depending on what car you're in, that can also change dramatically. Lastly, before I get into it, I absolutely realize that this is a crappy grid and all of this is not graphically stellar or anything. I'm going to try to keep this kind of quick. There's 46 cars. If I spend a minute ranking each car, that's a 45-46 minute video. I'm going to try to make it way quicker than that, but I have a couple of notes here and there about each car. So, we'll start at the bottom. The best cars to win in head-to-head races, and I hate to say it, but the Beetle is going to grace slot number 46. The Beetle is not horrific, but there's not much to it. It doesn't have a great top speed. It is not super stable. If it's in an area where it's going to be running into debris, it's going to get tossed around and stuff. So there's just not a lot to it. Can it win a race? Absolutely. Can it win in any race? Absolutely. That's another point to this list. Every single car on this list can beat every single other car on this list. I personally have witnessed a Beetle finishing a win in a head-to-head versus an F9 and winning it. So absolutely any car can beat any other car, but I would rather be in, an RS200 than a Beetle. So that's that. The Beetle is the car I would like to have the least. I'm sorry, Beetle. What's up next? What is number 45? What is nipping at the Beetle's heels? It's the Escort, the 1967 Escort, in my opinion. Again, in my opinion, the 67 Escort, is it better than the Beetle? I suppose. I don't take it very often. If I'm in the Beetle and I come across a 67 Escort and I can do anything but take it, I will do that. Not great speed, pretty poor acceleration. It's tough to get going, but it's decent in a straight line. Top speed, I actually don't know the top speed on the Escort. There's a few cars that I have not actually tested, and I have not gone out there yet to determine what the speeds are. I suppose that's something I neglected to do on a couple of these. I apologize, but the 67 Escort, it's not all that quick. It's decent enough in a straight line early on, but there's not a lot more to it. It's not very stable. Rear-wheel drive, meh, meh, meh. Same thing about our next contender at number 44. I will put the Carrera in the 44th spot. Pretty much the same as the Escort. I think its top speed is a little bit better than the Escort, but it is still a car that is tough to get going, but is okay, decent in a straight line. Number 43, again, best head-to-head, best cars to win in head-to-heads. I will put the Peugeot in the spot of number 43. I'm pretty sure the Peugeot is all-wheel drive. It's not fast. It's absolutely not a fast car. It's not really all that quick either. But it's either front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive because it is a little bit easier to get going and it is a little more stable. It doesn't get it might have a little more weight to it as well. It doesn't get bumped around quite as much by debris. All four of these do have trouble with debris in the Jungle Book. If you're hitting stuff, they're gonna be thrown around and slowed down quite a bit. But I think the Peugeot has a little bit more stability to it, a little bit better control. Next up after the Peugeot, I will put the Golf. Now, this is the first one where I think people might argue with me. I know some folks out there who really are a fan of the Golf R, and it's a good car early on. It's got a solid top speed of 158-ish miles an hour. That puts it up around several of the threes, a couple of the fours, etc., etc. It's unremarkable overall, but it has a top speed over 150 miles an hour for a level 2. That's not bad at all. So I do think that it's at least a decent car, but again, down in the level 2 range, it's probably the best of the early goings, but not exactly by a mile. After that, pretty much in the same vein, is the Ford Focus 03. So this is a level 3. This is a level 3 ride, and it's slow, 145-ish top speed. It has some decent stability. I'm pretty sure this is a front-wheel drive vehicle, and so a little bit more stable, a little bit easier to get going because it is front-wheel drive. Again, we're not racing in these cars on tracks or anything, so rear-wheel drive is not a great benefit to most of these, as you'll find, at least in my opinion. But again, these are just my opinions, so please take it all with a grain of salt. Next up, spot number 40. Absolutely, I am putting the S1. The biggest problem with the S1, or the biggest problem that I have with the Audi S1, is it's just slow. It is not, it's not like it's quick but not fast. It's not quick and it's not fast. So its 0 to 60 time is pretty slow, and its top speed isn't even 150 miles an hour. It's like 146-ish miles an hour or so. So really not a great car. I know I have to win in it still at this point, but let's forget about that. I will win in it, I promise. That's coming just down the road a bit. After the S1, I will put the Veloster in spot 39. And I do like the Veloster somewhat. It is slow to gain speed. It is not very quick, but it is at least moderately fast, 155 miles an hour-ish in that range, top speed. And it is easy to control. I'm pretty sure the Veloster is front-wheel drive. I don't think it's all-wheel drive. It could be. But regardless, it's pretty easy to control, has some good stability to it, has some decent weight as well. Debris doesn't throw it around quite as much as something like the 67 Escort or the Carrera, stuff like that. So a little bit more weight to it, which is kind of a nice thing to have. Right after the Veloster, yes indeed, better, superior to the Veloster in my opinion, is the mighty Macan. Now, absolutely, feel free, disagree, tell me I'm absolutely insane here by putting the Macan so high up on the list. However, the very first time I tried the Gotta Catch 'Em All challenge in the Macan, I won. So I'm going to be a little bit biased there. But the thing about the Macan is it is absolutely not very fast. It doesn't have a great top speed. I don't know what its top speed is. I've never tested it. I'm thinking it's up in the 120-ish mile an hour range or something like that. Not very good. However, it is ridiculously stable, easy to control, has good weight so debris doesn't push it around a lot. If you can catch somebody coming at you in the Macan and you're coming the other way and you're already up to speed of 90 miles an hour or so, and it's some hilly terrain and stuff like that, they may have trouble catching you because you're also not going to lose a lot of speed when you come off of the crest of a hill and you slam down on the other side. The Macan is very, very stable, and so you're not going to lose a lot of speed. You're not going to lose a lot of momentum. When you hit debris, you can go right through it. So I actually am a decent fan of the Macan. I don't despise it. Next up on the list is, of course, going to be the Macan's, I don't know, big brother, little brother. I'm going to put the Mini up here. How dare you, Kyle? You're taking a Mini over an Audi S1, over a Veloster? What is the matter with you? Again, the thing about the Mini is if you can race somebody in favorable terms for yourself, the Mini will do better than the Audi S1 will. It is ridiculously stable. It is the most stable car possibly in all of the Eliminator. Very difficult to roll the thing, very difficult to get it off center and onto two wheels. It's just stable. It will take those rolling hills and those little jumps very well. You won't lose a lot of speed. It does have possibly a little bit more trouble with debris than the Macan does, and its top speed actually may be a little bit slower. So you could probably interchange these two pretty easily, but I do think they are 37 and 38th. I stand by that, so deal with it. At number 36, I have the Polestar. Polestar? The Polestar. Veloster, Polestar. I'm mixing them both up. I do believe the Polestar is a very solid level 3. There's people who can debate it is the very best of the level 3s. Obviously, I don't believe so because I've got another level 3 up above it, but at 163 miles an hour, the Polestar has a decent top speed. It overall is unremarkable. It has decent control, decent stability, decent-ish acceleration. Again, for the levels 1, 2, 3, 4 area, it has decent acceleration and a good top speed. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot to it. Overall, it's unremarkable, but I thought it was definitely worthy of the 36th spot. In spot 35, this may be a bit of a surprise to some. I am not a big fan of the Evo. I couldn't tell you why I really hate it. I guess I can tell you. First of all, it's not that fast. Sub 160 mile an hour top speed. It is all-wheel drive, which is nice. It doesn't have a ton of weight to it, though. This and the WRX has the problem a little bit as well, but I think the WRX might outweigh it. I've had experience where the Evo is pushed around a little bit more by debris than some of the other vehicles, and seems to be pushed around a little bit more by debris than the WRX. That could just be me, though. I have it down here. It's just not. It's overall semi-unremarkable. No top speed over 160 kind of hurts it up in the class 4 range. So that's why I have it down here at 35th. Right after it, I have kind of the opposite. So I have the Desert Flyer in our 34th spot. The Desert Flyer is the first level 5 car to grace this list, and I'm just not a big fan of the Desert Flyer. Reasoning behind that. Well, tell us. So first of all, solid acceleration. So the Desert Flyer gets up to its top speed really quite quickly. It's kind of like a Metro Mini. The problem is that top speed is what the Metro's is at 134-ish miles an hour. That's not that great for a level 5. The problem with the Desert Flyer is it's also very light, so debris is going to shove you all over the place. You're going to slow down whenever you're hitting fences and trees and shrubs and stuff a lot more in it, and it's very difficult to control. Rear-wheel drive, and it will spin, and it will flip, and it just doesn't have a whole lot going for it overall, so that's why I have it down in the 34th spot. Next up, spot number 33, I have the Quattro. And the Quattro is a level 3, and it's all the way up here above several level 4s, above the Evo, above the Desert Flyer at level 5, above the Mini, above the S1. So the thing with the Quattro is 157 mile an hour top speed. It's not all that fast overall, but it has solid acceleration. I don't think its acceleration is quite what the Desert Flyer's is, but I might be wrong. It might be equal to it. All-wheel drive, though, has it with very good stability, very easy to control. As far as an early-level car, the Quattro is excellent if you're trying to beat some earlier-level cars, even if you're trying to take on some of the cars up here in 32, 31, 30, you know, up in the higher ranks. The Quattro can hold its own, and it's just so easy to control with that extra little ability that it really is a big fan, it really is a big fan of mine. I really am a big fan of its. Next up, at number 32, the Bronco R. And some will really agree with me, some will not. Here's the thing, I don't hate the Bronco R. I really don't. I do not hate the Bronco R. The problem with the Bronco R, though, is as a level 5, it's kind of unremarkable as well. Problem with the Bronco R, its top speed is 145-ish miles an hour, and that 145 had better be on the road because it's never going to hit that top speed when you're driving through the underbrush and stuff. It just doesn't have great acceleration and power there. What it's not going to do, though, is lose much speed when you're running through stuff. It has good weight to it, and so it's going to be stable. It has a nice wide wheelbase, so it's not going to flip on you too much, but has a lot of good weight to it, so you're not going to be pushed around by debris. You're not going to lose a lot of speed when you're running into stuff. It is also another that is very easy to control. It's kind of a catch-22, though, because it's easy to control because it's so slow. So that's kind of a problem with the Bronco R. It's stable, easy to control, not going to slow down much, but it's not going to slow down much because it's really not going all that fast in the first place. That's kind of a problem for it. Spot number 31, I have the WRX. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the WRX. I know the WRX and the Evo seem very, very, very similar, and they are pretty similar to one another. But in my experience with the WRX, it is faster, has a top speed of around 161 miles an hour-ish, but it doesn't seem to get pushed around quite as bad as the Evo, and I think it might be a little faster 0 to 60 as well. I could be completely off base, and again, these are just my opinions, so don't crucify me for it, but I have the Evo in the 34, or I have the WRX up in the 31st position. Number 30, the F-150, and people may argue with me here that this should be lower. Here's the thing with the F-150. It is another similar to the Bronco R where it is not fast. If the Bronco R tops out at 145-ish, the F-150 tops out a little bit faster, like 153, 154. It is slow. It does not accelerate well. It's difficult to control. It's rear-wheel drive, and so getting it going is a problem. Once you get it going, it is a bear to slow it down. It has a lot of weight to it. So any debris that you're going through, if you're driving through the Jungle Book hitting logs and stuff, the F-150 is not going to give a crap about those logs. It's going to go right through them. If you're driving elsewhere and you're hitting fences and trees and shrubs and stuff, obviously the solid ones are going to stop anything. But, you know, the little trees that you can go through, it's not going to slow down very much. So it doesn't have a great top speed, but once you get it going, it's going to be going for a while. It is not super maneuverable, and I can absolutely agree that if you want to argue this is down in here, you know, the Quattro head-to-head might be better, but once the debris gets going, if you can race a Quattro in favorable position, that Quattro is not going to catch you. So that's why I think the F-150 is number 30. Now into the top 29, broaching into the 20s, I have the BMW X5 with our first spot here. The X5 is one of my favorite, I think my favorite level 4. Really good top speed, 170 plus miles an hour, like 171, 172. One big problem with the X5 that a lot of people don't realize until it's on its side or roof, it's really top heavy, and it has a narrow wheelbase. It's not very wide, so It has a tendency to flip and become unstable a little bit easier than some of the other SUV or truck types. So a little bit more unstable there. However, it is easy to control, and stability to me is if you're going over bumps, if you're taking harder turns and stuff, does the vehicle have a tendency to flip? Yes. Is it easy to control, though? Is it easy to get it going where you want it to go? Is it easy to aim the thing? The X5 is absolutely an all-wheel drive vehicle, so solid pickup, decent acceleration, solid top speed. If it's on the road, it's got an excellent top speed for level 4, 171 miles an hour. That is absolutely excellent. Great speed there. Easy to control, so I think it definitely warrants 29th. I think that's A-okay for the X5. In 28th, and there can be potential debate here, I guess. I do have the Focus 2017 Focus RS. My plucky RS. I love this car. I personally could rate it higher, but if I'm comparing recently, I've been in it a lot recently, racing some other vehicles that are similar, and it may not be quite as good as I think it is, but I still love it. Front-wheel drive, I'm almost positive it's front-wheel drive, not all-wheel drive. Pretty slow acceleration, so if somebody catches you right off the bat, you're going to have some trouble. Though, once you get it going, it is decent. It will keep its speed. Has okay-ish weight. You're going to get pushed around in the jungle, but it's not going to slow down too much for you on hitting fences, hitting trees, stuff like that. Top speed on it, 167 miles an hour. Another one that's really not bad. From level 5 on down to level 1, that's like top 4 or 5 in top speed, so not a bad vehicle. However, it is also easy to control, and that's kind of a big deal for a lot of people, is how easy is the car to control, and the Ford Focus RS is pretty easy to control. Next up is the exact opposite of that. In 27th spot, we have the Chola. Now, some people, Austria, will argue the Chola should be down here with like the Carrera or something. I don't think so. I completely disagree. Here's the problems with the Chola. It's very light. It gets stuck very easily. When you're hitting stuff, you're going to get shoved around like crazy. So if you're in the jungle and you're hitting logs and stuff, be prepared for the Chola to go wherever the hell it wants to go. And in some cases, it's going to stop entirely. It is tough to control. Once you have it going, if you feather the throttle, a little bit ginger on the throttle, gingerly, play with the throttle gingerly. When you're going off jumps and stuff like that, lay off the throttle just a bit. It's a little bit easier to control. The things that are benefits to the Chola is it does have excellent acceleration. So, okay, not excellent acceleration. Once it starts to get going, it will get to its top speed relatively quickly. So it'll get up to around 150 miles an hour or so, which I know is not great. However, the big benefit to the Chola is it handles bumps and jumps and divots in the road and everything very, very well. The suspension on it, obviously it's a buggy, so it handles that stuff pretty well a lot of the time. But it's also not very, it's not stable. If you go off a jump, to one side or the other, you're probably going to roll. If you can take a jump going straight, when you come down the other side, you're not going to lose any speed in a Chola, which is nice. So, yeah, I know I'm struggling a little bit here because I know a lot of people hate the Chola. I don't hate it that much. I think it's worthy of a top 30 spot, and I think it's worthy at number 27, just like its little brother, the Nomad. Pretty much everything I just said about the Chola is true about the Nomad in one form or another. I can't think of anything that's a whole lot different about the Nomad versus the Chola. I think the Nomad is probably more stable. It's a little bit lower to the ground, so a little bit more stable on jumps and stuff where you're not going to roll it quite as easy. So based on that, I give it a little bit of a bump. Its top speed is not quite what the Chola's is. It doesn't even hit 150, but the extra stability that it's got, I think, gives it a bit of an edge. Still difficult to control, still very light, so problems with that, but other than that, I think it's a great car. I think, it's 26th, so I think it's a good ride. I will take it as a level 6, and I will beat you in your level 8 in it. Or not. Top 25. And first up, the Levante. Number 25. The Levante is basically like the big brother of the X5. its speed is not tremendous. So like the X5 is 171 miles an hour, the Levante is 168. So it's not even as fast as its little brother, the X5. However, it's very easy to control. I think it has better stability than the X5. It's very heavy through debris, similar to the X5. It's just not going to slow down when you're hitting stuff. But I think the ease of control gives the Levante a little bit of an edge there. I do think that it may have a little bit better acceleration as well versus the X5. Head-to-head in a race, like on the, in a drag race, I think the X5 may take it because of its top speed, but who knows? I just think overall I do prefer the Levante to the X5 by a couple of spots, as it were. Next up at spot number 24, we have the Exocet. And this is another where people are going to say, wait, but the Nomad and the Chola, they're all the same thing. Not really. So with the Exocet, I think it's the lightest of the bunch. Debris doesn't throw it around. Debris just stops it a lot of the time. It doesn't have a great top speed either. The top speed of the Exocet is like 133 miles an hour. Here's the thing. Great acceleration. The Exocet will get to that top speed very quickly, very low to the ground. So the Exocet actually ends up being pretty easy to control. I think the Exocet is all-wheel drive. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I really don't think it's rear-wheel drive. So if it's not all-wheel drive, maybe it's front-wheel drive. But it is a lot easier to control than either the Nomad or the Chola. So I think that gives it definitely a benefit over both of those. I like the Exocet over either the Nomad or the Chola every single time. I would never take a Nomad or Chola over an Exocet. Same other benefits though. Stable off of jumps. If you can take a jump straight on, you're gonna land and gain speed. You're not gonna have trouble with a lot of speed loss there. It does roll as well, but I think of the three buggies, I think it's also the least prone to rolling. So overall, that's why I like it up in this spot. Next up is our first level 7, the Trail Cat, number 23. So with the Trail Cat, it says it's a level 7, but I don't know, because it's just slow. It is dog slow. It has a top speed of like 163 or so, but its acceleration is also horrific. Here's the thing. It is slow, and it is the opposite of quick. So no great top speed, and it doesn't even get to its top speed quickly. It weighs a ton, though. And so once it does get going, it's going to go through all the debris. Anything in the jungle, it's going to go right through it. Fences, trees, logs on the... It doesn't... Other cars. It will go right through everything. If it comes down to it, and I haven't touched on this a lot because I don't do a lot of back and forth battling when I'm in a race, like car to car, but if you have to run a car off the road, I can't think of too many that are going to be better at it than the Trail Cat. So that's excellent about it. It's very stable overall, wide set wheels, so you're not going to roll too easy. Absolutely, you can roll it. I've rolled it many times. However, it is a very stable car. It's easy to control, all-wheel drive, so I do think it deserves to be up in the top 25, but I know a lot of people are going to argue that. Next up, past the Trail Cat, will be the Bronco. The Bronco is like the Trail Cat, only a little bit better. So it's pretty slow as well. If the Trail Cat's 163-ish, the Bronco's a little bit faster, like 170 miles an hour. So not a lot better there. It does have a little bit better acceleration. Everything else about the Bronco is the same as with the Trail Cat. So very heavy, good against debris. It is a little top heavy though, so it does have a little bit better tendency to roll, and so that's going to knock it down a peg or two. Number 21. Everybody's favorite. I couldn't quite give it a top 20 spot though. So let's get the bad out of the way right off the bat. The Ferrari is impossible to control. And I don't obviously mean it is impossible to control. And every single car on this list does have absolutely some benefits. Every car here has some kind of benefit to it. All of them move forward, which is nice. However, getting the Ferrari to actually do that can just be a huge pain. If you're off-road, if you're in sand or dirt, You gotta feather the throttle when you're first in the Ferrari. Get it going, get it aimed where you want, and then start to give it more gas. Get it going in a straight line. In a straight line, though, the Ferrari's pretty solid. So, tough to get going. Not very stable. Rear-wheel drive. No stability control or anything for that car. I even think if you have stability control on, I think it disables it behind the scenes. Doesn't weigh a lot, so debris and stuff is going to slow you down a bit. Debris in the forest, like logs, is going to crush your speeds and shove you around a lot. However, if you are on road, it has solid, very solid acceleration and a great top speed. It can almost hit 200 miles an hour. 195, 196 is about the best I've ever done on pretty straight, maybe a little bit of a downhill, but it's really, really fast. It will hold the road pretty well as well if you're not going all out with it. So it's not going to handle jumps well. It's not going to handle bumps well, but it can get up there in speed. So I do have to give it its due. Next up, into the top 20, and no, I didn't want to put it in the top 20, but if I'm reasonable, okay, fine. So here we are in the top 20, and the Level 8 Chevy Camaro does break in to the top 20. Everything I just said about the Ferrari is absolutely true about the Camaro. It does weigh a little bit more, so you won't have quite as much trouble with debris. But the problem is the Camaro has more power than the Ferrari does, at least when you're slamming on the gas, and so getting it going can be even tougher than the Ferrari. And I am not a fan of the Ferrari. I am not a fan of the Camaro. To me, the Ferrari's a level 5. And the Camaro's a level 5. Like, I'm not a fan. I don't like them. But, just like the Ferrari, if you can get the Camaro on pavement, absolutely, you know, if you're in a final that's all on road and you're in the Camaro, you can challenge the big boys because the Camaro will hit 200 miles an hour. So if you get a better start than everybody else, you could win that, even if there's RS200s and AMG 1s in it. The Camaro is that good on the road. If you're doing anything else, my apologies. And I just realized I've been talking for like 30 minutes straight, maybe even a little bit more than that. And I wanted this whole video to be like 25 minutes. So I guess I went way, way, way over my my assumed time limit. So I think I'll actually end this here. So we have number 20 through number 46. So 26 cars covered. I think that's pretty good for one video. I'll follow up real quick with a 1 through 19, but I wanted to keep this to less than half an hour for all of them, and I totally blew past that. I guess maybe my intro was a little too long. I don't know. Whatever. Anyhow, please send your downvotes, send your thumbs downs, send your comments telling me how wrong I am on every single one of these. That will I anticipate and expect all of that. Those of you who agree with me on 1 or 2 cars, hey, great, awesome. Those who disagree on every single one, again, remember, it's just my opinion. I'm not stating that this is fact or anything. This is just in my opinion. These are the cars that I would utilize in this order to win head-to-head races throughout the entire Eliminator. First, second, third, shrinks, fourth shrink, all of it. Anyhow, I would like to thank everybody for watching today. And you guys will hear my voice and perhaps see my gameplay. There was no gameplay on this one, though, so maybe I have to change my outro. But at the very least, you guys will more than likely hear my voice on the next one.